Hello people, it's Cole. I'm so glad you're here to hang out with me today. If you like print materials from the 80s, 90s, and Y2K, I have a lot to share with you. This week we'll be flipping through a book that I was obsessed with as a child, and I am still kind of obsessed with now. It is Disaster, Catastrophes That Shook the World. It's huge, so we'll see how filming goes with this one. I'm so excited to relive my morbid childhood obsession with catastrophes and natural disasters. Yeah, let's get started. All right, Disaster, Catastrophes That Shook the World. This is a DK book. DK publishes some of the most beautiful books, incredible illustrations and photos, and they just are set up so nicely. This particular one was published in 1997, which I would have been like 10 years old approximately. So what triggered the memory of this book for me was a video I did some time ago where there was like a destruction scene in a comic. It was a Disney Adventure magazine. That's what the flip through was. I don't know, I was really into like destruction as a child. I don't know if that sounds weird. Very interested in natural disasters. So I really probably would have been very interested in this like destruction scene. I had books about like tornadoes and earthquakes and shipwrecks. And it reminded me of the fact that I used to be obsessed with images of order descending into chaos. Had such a fondness for that I would get books like this as a child, and I still am interested in these things. So, I mean, how great is this? So much drama. I'm probably going to say the word drama like 10,000 times in this video because that is really what this is. It's a book of drama. This is a little table of contents to get you excited for what's to come. We have some disaster classics in here. Vesuvius, Black Death, the Titanic, the Hindenburg, which was on the cover. Very fiery and exciting, and also future disasters, something to look forward to. So we begin with Vesuvius. So here, this is kind of really how all of the spreads work in this book, which is that they have a lot of kind of like chopped up little cross sections, like very angular, clean cut little chunks of the scene, which I love that. Again, this is like a wonderful push and pull between order and chaos because it's images of chaos that are so orderly organized and like gridded out. So here we get like a little slice of life, a little square of life. On any normal day, crowds would have thronged in Pompeii's streets and lined up at the bakeries and stand-up cafe counters. And there's a little cute little picture of a donkey and some fruit vendors. Obviously, we have our erupting volcano here. It has a really cool cross-section of the volcano, including like this magma kind of core, which is this like spiky dragon fruit shape. Is that what I'm thinking of? Very beautiful. I mean, spectacular. Like, look at this. Lightning is so cool up here. Down here. Okay, so we have like a 3-scene room. Starts with luxury. Pompeii's most luxurious houses had attractive dining rooms and gardens. Beautiful mosaics covered the floors, and murals brightened the walls. The ash preserved all these details. So here's some people laying around having a luxurious breakfast, pointing out the door like, hey, what the hell's going on? They're drinking wine for breakfast. And moving on to quick death, everyone has suffocated in the luxurious breakfast scene. And then over here, the same room again, fully kind of like filling up with ash. And there's like a, we have these, again, these clean cross-section cuts, so we can see the nice kind of stair-stepped floor, which is really cool. You can see these little peaks of like a foot and a head and some fabric and a hand sticking out from this ash cross-section, kind of breaking the picture plane. More great kind of full-body garment shots of these toga things with their little gladiator sandals. Moving on to Black Death. This is the plague, right? I think this is what we, until recently, this is what we thought of as like the biggest plague ever. Of course, happened in Europe in mid-14th century. Again, we have wonderful sequential storytelling here on these cut out plots of land. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, this is like sideways. A lot of these are sideways because they're such big images. We have the rats, of course, the cause of the plague. There they are. And fleas. Yuck. Cute, little town. They're bringing out their dead, like, in the beginning before it was a big deal. Everyone's acting normal, playing with geese, just casual 14th century activities. Here's a very ornate wagon that says that wealthy people fled from the outbreaks. This ornate wagon is full of the wealthy, much like same thing happened here with COVID, didn't it? History repeats itself. Moving on down here, we have, like much more heavy scenes of death, bodies like laying out in front of the front yard, people like laying dead just kind of on the floor in the house, yet to be found. This is great. I love this. I remember this image from when I first read this book, which is Dancing Mania. It's this little circle cut out of land with these people dancing. Wonderful action, like really cool illustration. This woman's like throwing her head back, very beautiful. We have like a collapsed person in like a sweet potato looking hat on the ground. It says, terror of the disease sometimes turned into hysteria. People danced uncontrollably for hours in rings before collapsing, senseless with exhaustion. Fun. And then we move down here to like massive death burials in mass graves. They're like all wrapped up in this twists of fabric. They're not in coffins. There's like a horse cart dumping in a body right there. Huanghe Flood. It is a flood from 1935 in North China. Again, we have this great sequential imagery of water comes crashing down. It's like gross, yellow, like nasty river water comes crashing down, floods the sweet little village down here. People like flinging out of boats. There's little chickens up on the roof of this cottage here. This whole book is like extraordinarily thoughtful and so detailed and has so many little tiny touches because you can look at these images for so long and find things you never saw before. This I remember very distinctly. So it says houses were buried under a thick layer of mud. Farmers plowing their fields sometimes broke through the roofs of buried houses. You can see this great action shot of this donkey and this guy breaking through a buried house that they didn't know was there. I remember being like, I want to find like a whole buried house someday, somehow. I also had like a thing for abandoned houses, and I just loved that, the mystery of them and the things left behind, and this was like quite an exciting thought. We did have, in the house that I lived in, like around when I was reading this book, I suppose, we always found a lot of stuff buried in the yard, like broken pottery. It wasn't pottery. I'm talking about it as if it was like ancient. It wasn't. It was like broken dishes from I don't know when. Buttons, pieces of metal, just like stuff that was like embedded in the yard, like all over the place. And I don't know if it was because it was a landfill or because people just buried their garbage in the past, or what that stuff was from. That house was also built over like a spooky old, like the Ring well, as well, also. But there's some mysteries under that house. Blizzard. New York blizzard, 1988. No, 1888. New York blizzard, 1888. More great clean-cut cross-sections. We have this drifty snow, clean chop, the derailed passenger streetcar thing. This one's popping right out of that. Cross-section, very cool, looks awesome. It says that people would just try to walk to work or walk home from work because the trains didn't run because it was so cold, and they just died. They just collapsed and died because it was so freaking cold. How awful. My God. I remember when they called it a polar vortex, really. The polar vortex happened in Chicago in like 2014. Work didn't close. A lot of places did close, but my job, I think they gave you the option of coming in, and I did because I'm stupid. And I also remember that I wouldn't wear a hat during the polar vortex blizzard where it was like negative 40 degrees. I wouldn't wear a hat going to work because I didn't want to mess up my hair. Can you believe that? What an idiot. So I just like risked my ears and becoming frostbite because I didn't want my stupid hair to get messed up on the way to going to work where no one was going to see me because no one was even going to come in. Like everyone was hunkered down except for me being vain and stupid standing on the train platform with no hat. Okay, Tsunami, 1896. This is in Japan. Love this little person down here just kind of being tumbled around, floating in the giant wave. There's another one here with a boat. Here's some really beautiful kind of little models of how a tsunami happens with an earthquake creating the waves. Just gorgeous. Like the surface of the water is kind of opaque and then the interior is transparent but blue tinted with the earth underneath. This is just like a really, really gorgeously rendered illustration. Don't you love that? Wouldn't it be fun to have an object like this, just like a sculpture? It's so beautiful. San Francisco, 1906. This is a iconic earthquake. These buildings in a very dynamic fashion, like crumbling and splitting. We got the incredible detail of the way this is illustrated with these like planks of wood popping out and these little like shutters and this little tiny lunette window popping out up here from this church thing. Just like these architectural details are so cool, especially seeing them in this kind of disarray. Very exciting. Little people here running, little hat popping off right there. Dead horse, more dead horses. All right, Titanic. I guess this came out the same year as the Titanic movie came out, right? 1997? I think that's right. Love these cross sections. Love this dolly dollhouse views into all these little rooms. Spiral staircase, the unmade bedding. Here's our wonderful glass dome, as we all know. They even have that little cherub sculpture that is so iconic in that grand staircase. I love that the accuracy of the attention to detail that was done with this rendering here. The wicker furniture down here says in the restaurant, stewards continued to lay tables for breakfast. Ooh, do you remember in the Titanic movie when like the water was filling up the dining room and like the plates were like floating above the table? That was so cool and so spooky. That movie's so good. Here's a cool little kind of graphic representation of the different classes, first, second, third crew, and the number of people who survived and died from those different classes. You can see like some little kind of, there's like little fashion plates really. Dust Bowl, 1936. This is in like the Great Plains of the United States, choking cows. Like got a little pink cow tongue sticking out. I love this cross-section of this yucky little like busted up farmhouse, dirty, nasty farmhouse. Everyone's like barefoot. Chickens freaking out. This sad, dingy little dining room you can see here. And here's our family, barefoot, as I mentioned, walking through barbed wire. Yikes. Very Dorothea Lange, right? I think. Hindenburg, our cover lady. Thrilling explosion. I remember this was very revelatory because I knew about the Hindenburg. I mean, most people do. 1936 exploding blimp. Wow. I did not know that it was like a passenger ship kind of thing. There's a little cross section here of the portion of the ship, of the blimp that people occupied. So there's little passenger cabins, like a little sleeper car type situation, like mini hotel rooms, observation deck, lounge, the kitchen. I didn't realize it was like that kind of thing. So that human element of it being kind of not that different from the Titanic, I guess, is sort of like weird portable hotel luxury liner situation, made it all the more interesting and fascinating. And down here we have the explosion. Really great exciting action shot of everybody like jumping off the blimp as it's approaching the ground and running away. And we even have this great little, I remember her right down here. I remember appreciating there was like no women represented here, which I did not like, but we have one gal here even wearing a little heel. We love to see it. Cyclone, 1974, Christmas Day in Australia. Great kind of suspended moments of like the roof flying off, the door flying off of this home. What a nice little bathroom vignette of this family huddled in the bathroom. This guy being thrown against a wall wearing flip-flops. There he is again, still got a flip-flop on, one of them. Some people escaping. Everyone's wearing sandals, walking across this like broken rubble and glass, which is freaky, much like the barefoot people walking through the barbed wire. I guess disasters don't give you a lot of options. Looking ahead, future disasters. What's in store, everybody? Let's see. We're talking about rainforest destruction. Check. We're talking about biodisaster. Check. New diseases and some familiar ones threaten our world with biodisaster. So that happened. Here's a really cool illustration of a comet impacting Earth with this like explosion cloud coming out of it. Well, that's the end of it. I love this choice of a emergency red paper. On the back, we get to see our wonderful Titanic sinking with its rear end up in the air again, people jumping off, drama. Oh, and you can see the tilted little rooms too. That's a nice touch with that cutaway. So there you have it. Disaster. Catastrophes that shook the world. Well, I hope you enjoyed that flip through. And if you did, please feel free to like the video. It really helps out my channel. And also subscribe to my channel if you like this content and like me. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next Sunday for another new video. So until then, take care.